Every month starts the same way. You promise yourself this time will be different. This time you'll actually save money. And somehow, a couple of weeks later, you're staring at your banking app wondering where it all went. You didn't buy anything crazy. A coffee here, a delivery order there, a subscription you forgot to cancel. None of it felt like a decision. It felt like it just happened to you. But the real reason is far stranger than bad discipline. Your brain was never built to save money. It was built to survive the next 24 hours. Think about that for a second. For most of human history, there was no bank account. There was no future paycheck to plan around. There was only today's food, today's shelter, today's threat. The part of your mind that handles money is thousands of years older than money itself. So when a paycheck lands, your brain treats it the way it treated a successful hunt. Eat now. Use it now. Tomorrow is not guaranteed, so why wait? This is not a character flaw. It is an inherited setting. The economist Richard Thaler spent decades studying exactly this gap between how people plan to behave and how they actually behave. He noticed something simple but important. People are terrible at saving for a future self they cannot picture yet. Ask someone if they should save more, and almost everyone says yes. Ask them to actually move the money right now, and something quietly stops them. Thaler called part of this problem mental accounting. Your brain doesn't treat all money the same. $100 in your checking account feels spendable. $100 labeled savings feels locked. But here's the twist. Most people never actually create that second label. The money just sits in one pile, and one pile is very easy to raid. Now picture a 19-year-old named Daniel. Daniel gets his first real paycheck from a warehouse job, $600. He promises himself he'll save $200 of it. He doesn't move the money. He tells himself he'll do it later once he sees what's left over. By Friday, he's ordered new sneakers. By Sunday, dinner with friends. By the following Wednesday, the $600 is closer to $90. Daniel isn't lazy. Daniel isn't bad with money. Daniel is a normal brain doing exactly what it was designed to do with an unlabeled pile of resources sitting in front of him. Here's the part that should make you a little uncomfortable. Daniel's plan failed before he spent a single dollar. It failed the moment he decided to save what's left over instead of deciding what to spend on what's left after saving. That single flip in order is one of the most studied ideas in behavioral economics. Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who helped build the entire field, showed that humans don't evaluate decisions with cold logic. We evaluate them emotionally, in the moment, based on what feels good or safe right now. Spending feels good right now. Saving feels good only in hindsight, months later, when you finally look at the number and feel relief. So your brain keeps choosing the version of you that gets rewarded today, not the version of you that gets rewarded next year. Is that really so different from what happens to you every payday? You don't decide to fail at saving. You just never make saving the first decision. It becomes the leftover decision. And leftovers, by definition, are usually small or gone. So what actually works? Thaler, working with economist Shlomo Benartzi, tested a program called Save More Tomorrow. Instead of asking people to cut spending right now, which their brains resist, they asked people to commit today to save more starting with their next raise, a future event that felt painless because it hadn't happened yet. Participation and savings rates rose significantly because the decision was moved out of the emotional present and into a neutral future. In other words, people weren't suddenly more disciplined. The system around them changed instead. That is the twist nobody tells you. You are not failing to save because you lack willpower. You are failing because you are relying on willpower at all. In a moment, your brain was never designed to handle well. Go back to Daniel. 3 months after his first paycheck disaster, he tries something different. He doesn't promise himself he'll save what's left. He asks his employer to automatically move $40 into a separate account the moment his paycheck lands, before he ever sees the full number in his checking app. $40, not $200, small enough that he barely notices it missing. But here's what changes. He's no longer fighting his brain in the moment of temptation. The decision already happened, back when he was calm, rational, and not staring at new sneakers online. 6 months later, without ever feeling like he was trying harder, Daniel has more saved than he did in his entire first attempt. Nothing about Daniel's income changed. Nothing about his self-control changed. What changed was the order of operations and who was making the decision. Not present Daniel, standing in front of temptation. Past Daniel, sitting calmly with a form. This connects to something the economist Milton Friedman noticed decades earlier when he studied how people actually spend relative to their income. He found that people don't spend based on what they earn this month. They spend based on what they expect to earn on average over the long run, which means a small, permanent, automatic change to your habits has a far bigger effect than a big, temporary burst of willpower ever will. This is why New Year's resolutions to save more discipline almost always collapse by February. They rely on the exact part of your brain that money psychology says is the least reliable part for this job. Now look at your own life for a second. How much of your spending happens because you are deciding in the moment, tired, scrolling, hungry, bored? And how much would change if the decision had already been made for you weeks earlier while you were calm? That's not a trick question. It's the entire hidden mechanism behind why saving feels impossible for so many people who are genuinely trying. You are not broken. You are not undisciplined. You are running ancient software in a world full of one-click purchases and instant delivery, a world your brain has had no time to evolve for. The people who build wealth quietly aren't necessarily the people with more willpower. They're often the people who stopped relying on willpower altogether and built a system where the responsible choice happens automatically before temptation ever gets a vote. So the next time your banking app shows you a smaller number than you hoped for, don't ask what's wrong with you. Ask a different question. Where in your life is future you still waiting on, present you to make a decision you already know, present you won't make? You didn't open your banking app this morning because you're bad with money. You opened it because somewhere between your paycheck and today, present, you got to decide again. And this time, maybe it's time to let a calmer version of you decide first.